everyone. Welcome to the Real Estate Experience, where we drop absolute bombs and golden nuggets. So you'll want to take your notes because I have Benjamin Inman, who is with Inman Equities. And through that, he's under that specific company. He has well over 1,100 units all throughout the Southeast, you would say, Ben?
It's throughout the Southeast, yes.
Okay. With a valuation over 60 million in 12 markets. And he's been involved over 3,000 units also as well. So welcome. Thank you so much for joining, Ben.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. And it's just a very quick correction, not that it matters.
Oh gosh. Okay, here we go.
I think that, and it may be my fault, but I swear that we updated our site because I think on the website you may have gotten some of those numbers from there. So just a quick correction. Yes, we are in the Southeast. We have units. 1,200 of those units are units that we actually own with partners. The other units are units that I'm passively invested in. And so I just want to make that really quick correction.
Okay.
Now, what you said was not false, but it was, I guess, not the complete truth.
Got it. So he's has more levels of success on that. And for you all who are just now coming across the real estate experiences, one thing is I do experience shares for myself as an entrepreneur investor in the industry. One thing I mentioned, I'm not perfect by any means. I still make plenty of mistakes to this day. And I also have other investors, entrepreneurs in the industry as well, who are on here who share their experiences as well. So we really pull back the curtain just to give you some insights onto what it actually takes. And so, Ben, could you give everyone just your 5%, your pivotal moments in your life that have gotten you and shaped you to where you are now?
Yeah, so look, everybody grows up with a different background, right? And it's easy to see, where we are now and say, oh, that must be nice and great and all. And it is, but it didn't happen overnight. And it didn't come without sacrifice and a lot of hard work, right? And so, my whole thing has always been to execute on the vision, to keep pushing forward. And so, Grant used to tell us, commit first, figure the rest out later. And so that's just really what I've always done. And so when you hear that, it's like you're hearing what you already know.
And are you referring to Grant Cardone?
Correct.
Okay, gotcha, understood.
Yeah, and so when you already know something, and then you hear it from another person or an outside source, it kind of helps remind you that, hey, it's you just gotta just focus and hustle.
Gotcha. And so were you ingrained as hardworking growing up, or how did you get ultimately into the industry?
Man, so I've always been a hard worker. I've always been, surrounded by great people that worked hard, but also on the flip side of that, always surrounded by people that didn't work hard, and I felt out of place. And
Gotcha.
So to the point to where I moved down to Miami for a while and, started working with a family office down there. And, it was a Cuban family. It's immigrants that came over with really nothing and is a billionaire now. And it was all done through real estate. And so when I'm surrounded by these people, I'm like, man, I feel like a fish out of water at home. But now I know that my hustle and my focus and my determination will pay off because I'm surrounded by people that would appreciate that level of commitment. And gotcha. So it worked.
And would you say being around that type of environment, was there a different type of think in terms of how they thought about money or how they thought about deals versus the other crowd that you were that you were associated with?
Yeah, it's more because when you're surrounded by a certain mentality, it's an income, right? If you focus on your income, you don't have to focus as much on your expenses. And so many people are focused on cutting expenses in order to create wealth, and you'll never become wealthy by cutting expenses. But, referring back to Grant, I don't want to keep bringing him up, but, I learned a couple things when I was there with him. And he said, you have an income issue. It's what the problem is. If you focus on getting your money right, getting the income coming in, then you don't have to worry about the expenses. Now, that doesn't mean make $1 million this year and go below 900.
Understood. Yes.
So that's when I say you have an income issue, not an expense issue. I want to just clarify that, the key is just living below your means.
Mm-hmm.
And, being around this mentality, I just saw these guys working hard, man. And there's so many people out there that'll see someone with, that's achieved a lot of money or achieved a lot of success and has a lot of money. And it's, some people like look down on them to the point that we're like, oh, they shouldn't have that much money. But they got to realize that these people are the people that are creating jobs in this country that provide, jobs for, people that aren't, as driven. Right. And so it's easy for someone to look at these people and think, oh, they shouldn't have that much. But look, hard work pays off.
Yeah.
And when I saw that, it just made me even hungrier.
And one thing that I found interesting that I did learn as well is that you can only cut your expenses to a certain extent, and the income you can grow to, or when you're looking at a P&L, the income is this small line that you can grow significantly, but the expenses are, but it's just a finite. And so when did you realize you wanted to be in real estate?
So I've always been passionate about real estate. My dad, he was an architect, and he built or designed some stuff in town, and they used to drive by every day when my mom was taking me to elementary school. And then, I just I get inspired from like being around buildings. Like I just always loved big buildings and always wanted to own real estate. So I've always had that bug, and just always allowed myself to dream.
Gotcha. Understood. And I believe one thing that I've seen too is some of the most successful seem to have a ball head. So I don't know if that comes with it too.
Aerodynamic.
Yes, that's what it is.
I can run faster than anyone.
And so what has been one failure that you've experienced or that later set you up for success, you would say, in this industry?
It's a great question. So, when I was first starting out, I didn't really have a lot to start out with as far as capital is concerned, because I had all this experience, but, you just lack the capital, right? And so if you don't have it, you got to go find it. And so One of the things is finding the right partners to get deals done with. And one of my first deals I was doing two deals simultaneously, right? And the biggest deal that I was doing at the time ended up being a crook, a fraud. Yes. And
did you see any signs, or retroflect?
No, I met this guy at an event that I knew well. I built a relationship with the guy for probably 3 years before I decided to take that step. And so one of the things I realized is it doesn't matter who you jump into a deal with. You need to know that partner, right? And because you don't want to just jump into bed with somebody. And that's what I did, because I didn't feel like I needed to. It just never crossed my mind to do my due diligence on this guy. And so throughout the process, and it was a 1.5-year long lawsuit, because he was being sued out of the deal by another partner that was in the picture. And it was a 1.5-year long process. And through that, it just caused me to realize is, man, what would I have caught if I would have done the research early on? And we dug out some stuff that if I had done that research, I would have found some dirt on the guy.
Gotcha.
It just didn't cross my mind.
And then now that's something, when you do decide to do a partnership, you do the necessary checks and due diligence, as you mentioned.
And correct, because it can, help elevate you much faster by doing deals with partners. And, with that experience that I went through, you don't learn that in school, right? You can't read that in the books. And it's just one of those things you have to experience. Or I prefer you don't have to experience that.
Learn from others. Learn from others.
So don't put the wrong person in the right deal.
And I'd say one belief that I recently just replaced with another is that, and from Grant, that he talks about, yes, it's good to learn from your own mistakes, but it's even better to learn from others. For some reason, for the longest time, I was like, oh, I've got to go out there and fail and learn from my mistakes. Yes. But now I'm getting more feedback. Okay, well, let me read about others, what they do. Did they over leverage, putting 90% loan to value on their leverage? So just learning from those things. And for you, just shifting onto the beliefs. Well, actually, not going to the beliefs just yet. But what was your first deal? Was it multifamily, single family?
Yeah, so I've only done multifamily. That's the only property I've ever bought. I still to this day, I haven't even bought a single family home for myself. We actually still rent, the house that we live in. But, because why tie up the down payment money when I could put that down payment money to work in a multifamily deal, and it keeps increasing my net worth, right?
Gotcha.
And so I was doing 2 deals at the same time. One was a 475 unit portfolio in Nashville, Tennessee, and the other one was a 50 unit property in Northeast Atlanta, Georgia. And so I was doing the 2 deals together because if one didn't work out, the other one should, right? And
okay, fair enough.
a lot of work, but they both ended up closing, so we did pretty good on that.
Gotcha. And could you don't want to go too deep into it, but what was your involvement? Were you the one that was coordinating with the broker or going direct to the owner of it? What was your role in that? And were you the general partner?
And so good question. So on the large portfolio, I was the one that was driving the entire process. It was an off-market deal, which we can get to. I don't really care if a deal's on market or off market, just kind of a side note. But there was an off-market deal that was brought to me. I was connected directly with the owner of that property. And so I brought in the partners. They ended up taking this deal down. It was 3 properties across 475 units. Okay. So we did that deal. And going back to that bad partner, the bad partner cut me out of the deal without me realizing it. And the good partner kept me involved in the deal. So, and that's a whole nother conversation in itself. But going to this 50 unit property, so I leveraged my network of brokers that I knew to get that deal secured. And I found a partner to come into the picture to kind of help raise the equity on the deal and to help sign on the note, because at that time I didn't have the net worth to sign on this property. So there was kind of a double, kind of simultaneous process, but gotcha. On that 50 unit deal, I was a general partner on that deal. Gotcha.
And that was a great point that you mentioned, is you said you didn't have the balance sheet in essence, or the net worth, but instead of having that as a barrier, you're able to say, okay, well, let me go find someone who could bring that to the table, which, I mean, that's phenomenal in terms of how you were able to leverage that. And just going into the more additional lessons learned and just overall beliefs, is in the last 5 years, what has been one belief that you formed, and what was one that you shedded to replace that new one with?
And so, I mean, so I started this mental shift journey back, starting back in 2001, right, with Tony Robbins and Napoleon Hill and all these other great
Earl Nightingale. Did you come across Earl Nightingale?
Yes, I did.
Oh, yes. Strangest Secret. Have you listened to that?
Which one?
The Strangest Secret.
No, I haven't read that one.
Okay.
Is that one good?
Yes. And there's actually a YouTube video that you can find on it too, where Earl's talking. Love it.
Yeah, I'm going to check that one out. So, through that whole process started, and it was just a cleansing of your old, broken mindset, because I always knew that things were possible. You can accomplish a lot more than you think you can. And then as you keep putting this stuff in your mind and just keep growing and learning and building, you just start to just kind of pour fuel into your own mind. And but part of that process is getting rid of the old limiting beliefs that you had. And so that journey started mentally with me for a long 2001. So that was, gosh, almost 20 years ago.
Gotcha. How old were you at that time?
I was 21.
Wow. Okay. That's a great time. That's about right around the time where I just started on the self-improvement. It was a whole different.
Absolutely. Yeah. But it's very important. And the biggest obstacle you'll overcome is you, right? You are holding yourself back. It's not because of anything else that you believe that it is. It's you that are holding yourself back. And so, that's one thing that I had to realize, that the outside forces are not holding me back. It's me holding me back. And I learned at that point in time, and I don't know if this statistic is true, but I did hear that it is, that if you pick a subject, whether that subject is real estate or marketing or whatever, and you read on average of 1 book a week in that subject, that you will have the equivalent of a PhD in that subject matter.
Wow. Okay. 52 books a year, right? Yeah.
52 books a year. And so I've been doing that for 18 years. So
wow.
I never let that go. Now, I don't always read a book a week anymore, but I'd listen to podcasts or read books or listen to audiobooks, where I accomplish now at least 1 book a month. But during that process, I was doing 1 book a week.
And what would you say, if you have one, one book that really, was pivotal for you?
Rich Dad Poor Dad was a great one.
Okay. And why was that? Just out of curiosity.
Yeah, because he grew up with one mentality on one side, and then he had a different mentality on the other side. And but that's where most people are from the standpoint they believe that, oh, you have to go to work to earn your income. But what happens when you can't go to work? You don't make money. But if you have assets, guess what? You can go on vacation for a month, for a year, and it's multifamily specifically, you have those checks coming in every single month, right? And that's a beautiful thing. And once you make that shift, it'll change everything, man.
Understood. Awesome. Okay. Well, let's get to the tactical on the real estate side. So for you, how are you finding deals in today's market that's absolutely on fire, especially the markets that you're targeting over in the South? I know it's just not the Southeast, correct? You're about throughout the country now?
No, we're Southeast. So we're in the Carolinas, Tennessee, Georgia, and Florida. And so we're still in that Southeastern market. But, one thing I focused on is building a reputation, right? And because your reputation can help you win deals. And I have many stories that we can certainly dig into on that. But when most people just they think, oh, let me tie this deal up and go take it down. I never wanted the reputation of tying up a deal if I wasn't going to take it down. So that's one reason I'm so involved in the underwriting process, is because if I put out an LOI and I get the deal awarded and we go into contract, I'm closing that deal.
Gotcha.
Unless there's something that was so unforeseen that just throws everything off, I'm not going to back out of the deal.
Gotcha.
So that's how, and word gets around, right? And so, the broker space is a smaller space than you think it is. Mm-hmm. And so these guys talk. And so, I've closed a lot of deals with certain brokerages, and now I can leverage that track record to get deals from other brokers. Because even if I haven't closed a deal with this, I'm just going to pick a name like Keller Williams Commercial, right? Mm-hmm. If I ever close a deal with them, they don't know me, I don't know them, they won't prove that I can close a deal. Well, I can get letters of recommendation from brokerage shops that I've closed multiple deals with that will vouch for me, and that's a lot of weight to sling around, right?
Oh, yeah, agreed.
I just focused on reputation building and just for getting deals done. They know if I'm at the table, I'll get it done.
And so in the case where there is something that wasn't disclosed up front on the deal, you get through due diligence and it uncovers, how do you navigate that conversation with the broker? Is it completely transparent, or how have you dealt with that dynamic?
Well, I've never been faced with that, because if I go into a deal, I'm going to dig in early on to find out as much dirt as I can. I tell everybody, I don't want you to tell me the positive things. I don't want to know how great the rent can grow, right? I want to know, what are the problems? Like, what are the pipes under the ground? Like,
understood.
How many rodents are in the wall? How many roof leaks are there?
Rodents in the wall.
And so I try to get all that out of the way on the front end as possible, because I don't want to be in that position. But if I were in that position, I would say you need to be as transparent as you can, as quickly as you can, so you can get that conversation started. Because if you do end up backing out of the deal for any reason, I would highly suggest you back out as early as possible, because that broker has to save face to the seller. It's not just about you. It's about you and the broker, right? And if you do them that favor, chances are you won't be blacklisted and you'll still get deal flow coming in. Because if you're not transparent and not upfront honest, and you drag things out to the last 30th day of your due diligence period and say, hey, by the way, there's a roof problem, right? And
we need $1 million off.
Exactly. I've seen it happen, but you should have known that going into the deal.
Got it. And would you say, in terms of negotiation, people like to leave it at the end because they have more control as a buyer? But you would say in that circumstance that if you're looking at it at a long-term play, yeah, you may win in the short term, but long-term it won't work out.
I would not expect it to, because if you do wait to the last day of due diligence, and this is some people's strategy, right? They say, oh, look, I've got money going hard tomorrow. I've taken this seller down this long road, and now they don't want to start the clock over again and go find another buyer. That's not my strategy. But sadly, there are people out there that do that. And guess what? Chances are pretty high that their deal flow will get cut. If it does not get cut, when they submit an LOI on a particular deal, they won't be taken seriously by the broker. They'll always remember that. It takes 10 years to build a good reputation, but one bad deal or one deal to tear it all apart.
Dropping golden nuggets. You'll want to take some notes on that. And in the industry, that is known as retrading, which is just another word for renegotiating. And so how are you finding investors? Are you doing family offices, or is it high net worth individuals? How does that look like for your side? Because one thing I did see is through your LinkedIn, you're starting to do video content. So is that something you're also starting to leverage to bring on investors too? Just curious on that.
And yeah, so we have some good existing relationships with investors, country club money, friends and family, family money now, that we put into our own deals. So I put money into absolutely every deal that we do now, and have from the beginning, other than that very first deal where I didn't have anything to put in, so we had to raise everything. But every deal since then, I put in every single time. But for us, we're starting to do a lot more video content, but that was all by design. And what I mean by that is, even though I had a lot of experience doing this for other people for 15 years before starting my company, even though I would have I would be able to validate all my video content earlier on. However, there's people out there that have bought 100 units, right? And now they want to start these coaching programs to teach other people how to buy property. You don't have you're not in position to be teaching somebody how to buy multifamily properties if you've only bought 100 units. Because guess what? The problem is when you buy the units, then what? Nobody's talking about the operating pitfalls that could come once you acquire a deal. We can go into that conversation on a different video.
The asset management, property management.
I'll bring some heat to that conversation. But as far as from the acquisition side, I mean, what was the question? I lost my train of thought for a second.
We were attracting investors, but no, that was a good segue you were going into.
Coffee hasn't yet kicked in. So the video content we're putting out now, I wanted to wait until that 2-year window to really just people watching, hey, just see the process of us building up to the point where we're starting doing more videos. And there's a lot more things to come in the pipeline very soon. But that was all by design, because I didn't want to be this guy. And you've probably seen them on social media. They come out of nowhere. They really still haven't bought a lot or done a lot in the industry, but yet they have all these opinions on what to do and underwrite deals. But I will tell you, man, I'll put myself up against any NBA, any financial guy, any day of the week to underwrite deals against. Because I guarantee you there's things that they're missing from the real world perspective. And I mean that what I mean by that is you have the lenders that operate and they have a bunch of boxes they have to check, right? Mm-hmm. I'm not saying these guys and girls aren't smart, but what I'm saying is there's a lot of these conversations come from these lenders that, oh, what about this? And what about this? What about this? And what about this? Like, well, these numbers are wrong. And how many deals do you own? And the answer is always crickets in the room, right? The answer is 0. I'm like, okay, well, I'm giving you my answers based on my experience, not just book knowledge, but real world knowledge. And so there's a big difference there.
Got it. And so in that situation, someone who does not have the real world knowledge, how would you say they can be able to provide that track record or credibility?
So I would say you need to find a good partner to leverage with, to get deals done with. And I have this conversation with people quite a bit that have the money to bring to a deal and they want to start doing what we're doing. But I always recommend this. I say, look, you need to find a good sponsor to get involved with, to leverage off their track record, to get deals awarded, because it really doesn't matter how much money you have or your net worth or your liquidity. If you don't have a track record, you're going to still find it hard to get deals done unless you go to a local bank that's going to give you bad terms anyway. But if you want like agency debt, they're looking at track record as much as they're looking at net worth. And so I highly recommend to everybody, do a handful of deals with a partner, build up your track record, and then start going out on your own at that point in time. And you may find that you like doing deals with partners. You don't want to do deals on your own.
Yeah, that is a great and valid point. And speaking on, you were mentioning about the post-acquisition, what would you say is a common mistake or a misconception of, well, let's say common mistake. Would you say it's the the operating of the property, asset management, property management, et cetera?
Yeah, so property management companies are compensated based on gross revenue, right? They're not incentivized to save money, right? And so one thing I hate with a passion is when property managers say, "Oh, give me your budget," right? And then you'll give them a budget for marketing or admin or whatever that number is, and they'll try to blow through every single penny, right? Because like in the corporate world is if you don't use your budget, you don't get the same amount of money again next year. But I always was trained to, if you have a budget, let's just say you have a budget for appliances for your unit and it's $1,500 per set. I want to find those appliances, and just assuming that it's stainless steel, right?
Got it.
I want to find those stainless steel appliances for $1,450 if I can. I want to come under budget, right? Or if you're doing black or white appliances, you can usually get them. If your budget is $1,200, you can get them for $1,100, and possibly cheaper if you negotiate well. And so instead of spending all the money, I try to keep the expenses cut. And that's one key takeaway that I would recommend is, watch the expense numbers on the property management company, because if you're just sitting back and waiting for a check to come in the mail from these property management companies, those property managers don't have to answer to your investors.
Got it.
Your investors, and you better know what's going on at all times.
Got it. Love it. So now we'll switch over to the rapid fire round, where I'm just going to give you some quick hitters of some completely random questions.
Okay.
So we'll start with, what is one unusual, absurd thing that you like to do? Or just say one unusual thing that you enjoy doing.
One unusual thing that I enjoy doing. I love to read.
Okay. Got it. Would you say that's unusual?
I don't know. I just think it's a great question.
To the common person, it would be unusual.
I guess to a common person, it would be. I just work a lot, man, and really, my life consists of working every day, working out, and then playing with the kids every afternoon. But other than that, we take vacations, but I'm still always working. So I don't know. I have to think about that. It's a great question, man. I like that question.
Bird watching or anything? That's one of my absurd random things.
Some people do. It's just not my thing. I don't know.
Okay.
I'll think about that. Let's come back to that one.
Okay. What's one common myth that you can debunk about in the industry, real estate?
Cap rates are garbage. And what I mean by that is, back in the 90s, the whole word on the street was, "Oh, what GRM are you buying at?" Or GRM this. Half the people didn't know what they're talking about. So today, it's the cap rate, right? Everybody said, "Well, what cap rate is this? What cap rate is that?" And you say, "Oh, it's a 4.5 or it's a 5.5." And, "Oh no, I don't want that. I don't want that." Well, you got to dig into the numbers, because what on paper may be a 4.5 cap. Keep in mind that seller could have overinflated expenses, and we can go into that conversation. But your expenses may be a little bit different, as most people's would be. So what may look like a 4.5 cap may actually be a 5 3/4 cap, or maybe even a 6 cap.
When you normalize it,
you normalize your payrolls, your R&M costs, your marketing costs, your admin costs. So what may appear on paper in place to be a certain cap rate may be something completely different the day of takeover, and that's really what the lender is going to look at. And we can go into a whole other conversation, but cap rates, I think, are so misunderstood, because yes, they are based on certain facts and assumptions, but those facts can be changed. And I mean by that is I've seen owners that have a son or daughter on a payroll that don't even work at the property. Right? I've seen marketing expenses or admin expenses at the corporate level dispersed down to the asset level. So the assets is carrying a lot of cost that they shouldn't be burdened by. In many cases. And I've seen CapEx money put into the R&M cost that shouldn't be there. But if you don't know what you're looking for, and you don't know what you're trying to find to say, hey, what cap rate am I truly buying this at? You're going to pass up on a lot of deals.
Gotcha. And it also comes down to your financing too. That, you could get interest only for, 5, 10, or even shorter than that. So there's so many factors, and I'm glad you pointed that out, because that was one thing starting my career in the multifamily that I always looked at. I still look at it as just an overarching, a rule of thumb, but still want to get the T12 and financials to see what's going on.
Right. And I would say my second answer, that just really quick, and we can have another discussion about it. But another thing that really is incorrect is per square foot rent prices.
Gotcha. Dig into that. I'm interested in that.
Yeah, because most people look at, oh, what per square foot are you getting compared to the comps, right? Well, if your square footages are lower, right, your per square foot cost is going to be higher. So on paper, oh, well, the market's $1.25, but yours are $1.40. How much higher can you push, right? So, but the reality is that if there is a 1,000 square foot unit in the market, 2-bedroom for $1,000, I'm gonna keep the number simple. $1,000 a month, 2-bedroom, 1,000 square foot. It's a dollar square foot. And you have somebody that's on a budget, right, that may say, well, I can't afford $1,000 a month. My budget's $900. Guess what? If their budget's $900, they're going to go find a 2-bedroom, even if it's 600 square feet.
Oh,
if their budget
gotcha.
is their budget, you're not going to change it in most cases. So that's another misconception that people like, all these analysts, you say, here, the square foot there. Well, it's a metric to look at. It's not the only metric to look at. And for those very reasons, because you let somebody be on a budget, guess what? You can give them 2,000 square feet. And if they can't afford $1,000 a month, guess what? They're not going to pay $1,000 a month.
Gotcha. And also there's amenities that are in there. And then have you seen too that the larger the unit, the lower the square footage? So you couldn't compare what you were mentioning, 1,000 and a 1,000, so $1 per rent per square foot, and then you go, let's say 2,000, that you couldn't do 2,000 for that 200 square footage. What is a unit?
No, I mean, and that's one reason I don't look at the square foot numbers from a rent perspective, is because you have to account for people's, incomes, right? Especially where we are. I mean, we can all say that we're at the top, we're at the peak of the market, but we've been at the peak of the market for a couple of years now, right? So, I guess that can be argued, but how much higher can people's incomes grow in this, where we are in the cycle? I don't know that answer, right? But at the end of the day, it's like we can all probably agree that it may not grow that much more, because at some point there has to be a market correction. It's just the natural cycle of how the economy works. There has to be a correction. And it's not something that this president does or doesn't do. It's just the natural cycle of the economy. So that's one reason I don't get tied up into the square foot prices, because you hear a lot of people throw those numbers around. Analysts, you hear brokers throw around, these units average, 1,500 square feet. I prefer having an average of 1,000 to 1,100 square feet, because it may, a 1,500 square foot unit may be desirable to the tenant, but guess what? The turnover costs are higher.
Exactly.
Don't think about that.
So what do you look at when you're doing your comparables or pulling?
So I look at, as close to the same square footage as possible if they're in the market, but also look at the average 1-bedroom units on the comp set, because I see how high I can push my 1-bedroom units, and I see the minimums or the averages that I should be able to achieve. So we would have to underwrite through a deal to get really specific, which I'm happy to do, because I think I bring a different approach to it than a lot of people, but it's just simple. This is really a simple business. Yeah.
And so what has been a purchase or maybe a gift someone has given to you under $100 that has most positively impacted you, and I would say overall in your years?
Man, those gifts. I guess I can't include kids in that, can I?
Or we could go back to the first question. No, I'm just joking.
Because my daughter, I've got a card sitting somewhere. Oh yeah, I got it sitting right here. My card my daughter made for me for my birthday, and so to me that's invaluable, right? But if you're not allowed to pick out something your family does for you, then I would say something.
I would say that would be perfect, but yeah, we'll go with another one.
It costs just a little time to make, but that thing, it's you can't put a price tag on that, right? And so, but from outside, just to create. So one thing that I think is really means the most is when people really put some thought into a gift. It doesn't have to be monetary. It doesn't have to be $100. Doesn't have to be $10. It's just a thought that goes into it, right? Mm-hmm. And because some people either they have the money to buy anything they want, or you can give them a $10 gift that if it strikes the right heartstrings, then that's going to be it. But I'd say for me, probably a watch. I don't know the value of the watch, but it was a watch that was given to me as a moving away present when I moved from Florida back to Tennessee. And then, that watch, I don't know what they paid for it, but I get so many compliments on that watch. But guess what? I don't have to go out and buy, another watch, right? It's a nice watch, but, I don't get wrapped up into the Rolex, the Breitlings, or Patek and all this stuff. They're nice watches and all, but
Gotcha.
I'd rather just do my thing and buy more property.
Fair enough. And when you were mentioning about your daughter, I kind of got a little teary-eyed myself on mine, because I was thinking of mine. I have a 7-year-old Angel, and that's where all my hair went. She's got hair like Tarzan. And so it was, she gave me a paper that wrote Happy Father's Day on it. And I've got it on my fridge. And that was something that was, it's invaluable, what you were alluding to with the birthday.
But one thing I said when my daughter was born is she got my hair and my heart.
Oh, wow. Awesome. And
so she did me a happy birthday, right? And then she went and did all this creative stuff. She's full. And now this isn't her handwriting. She told my wife. And so she wrote it, and I love that, man. I get it.
And would you say that's your why? One of your whys?
Oh, definitely. So I have a son too. I've got a 2-year-old son, and they're definitely the whys. And it's like, man, I just want to make sure that if anything ever happened to me, that there's a certain income coming in, and to know they're taken care of. So that was my driving motivator.
Awesome. And just one last question here is, why do you believe we're here on Earth?
Man, that's a great question. I love talking to you. It's a great question. And I'm sure you get a lot of different answers, right? So, look, I'm a guy of faith, and it's always a mystery, right? Everybody's trying to figure out what they're here for, or what we are here for. I do not believe in that we, evolution to where, monkeys became humans, because if that were the case, monkeys would still be becoming humans. And guess what? It ain't happening, right? And so, what are we here for? I think we're here, man, overall, I think we're here to love each other, right? I think we're here to help each other, because it's not about you. It's not about me. It's about us, right? So I think to create unity, to love one another, and really just be there for each other, man. It's, because otherwise it's like, do the birds need us? No, they're going to do their thing regardless if we're here or not.
Fair enough. Yeah.
And so it's a great question, man. It really is.
Okay, perfect. And we could go back to the first question about the absurd, or we could just jump. Do you have that one? If not,
I'm still thinking about it, believe it or not.
Okay. All right. Well, maybe we'll go ahead and put that in the notes once Ben comes up with that.
Yeah, sure.
And so, how can people find you?
Yeah, so I'm on social media, so LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, at Inman Equities. Obviously, we'll have a website, inmanequities.com. We have, I always put my cell phone number out there, and yes, it is my actual cell phone. 615-513-3088 is a number that they can call or text. I prefer text because I am in and out of a lot of meetings.
Thanks for listening to The Real Estate Experience. If this has brought you any value, please subscribe and leave a 5-star rating. It would mean the world to me. Now go out there and crush it.